Make huge profits with NFTs.
Today, we're going to dive deep in how you can use data to find some alpha when trading and investing in those NFTs. We have the founder and builder of DGen Data coming in live a little bit later in the show to tell us exactly how to do just that. Welcome to Go to the Metaverse. It's good to be back. Stanley, how are you, my man? I've missed you.
I missed you too, buddy. Yossi's back, everybody, and he got new glasses.
I got new glasses. I minted a very rare NFT called a Baby that comes with special perks, keeps you up at night, needs constant feeding and attention, but warms your heart just like your favorite JPEG.
Welcome back. Congratulations on the baby. I'm excited that you're back, man. I missed you too. You got those new glasses. They're very meta-esque, as we like to call it. And welcome everybody to Goats in the Metaverse, the only weekly show that goes deep into the world of NFTs and collectibles. Before we get started, let's talk about my favorite part, your favorite part, the Goat Vault.
The Goat Vault. Where are we, Stanley, with the Goat Vault today? Wow,
we are
$54,000.
$54,539, which is down a little bit. Last week we're at $54,958. But I think we're still doing pretty well with like a $3,000 investment. And since you do it so well, why don't you tell everybody what the Goat Vault actually is, Yossi?
Well, for those of you who don't know what the Goat Vault is, where have you been? The Goat Vault is your chance to win some pretty epic NFTs. Every week we look for new drops. We add some NFTs into the vault, never to be released until we hit 5,000 subscribers. And then we will be awarding our loyal fans and community those NFTs. We've spent roughly, as Stanley said, $3,000 investing our own money. It's 20x'd to $54,000. We are going to be investing up to $10,000 to put into the vault. And who knows, by the time we hit 5,000, it could be $100,000, $1 million. Those NFTs are up for grabs. So subscribe today and become part of the biggest NFT giveaway ever.
All right, let's get right into it. Let's check out this week's top 10 NFT watch. What do we got? Boom!
The first thing I can tell you, Stanley, is just, being out of action for the 2 weeks that I have been having a baby. There's names here that I don't even know anymore, like Farming Tales, Farmer's World. Farming Tales, $17 million, up 1,100%. Never even heard of it. Wow, this place moves really quickly. Tell us what's going on, Stanley.
Really quickly. Let's talk about the top 3 NFTs. Axie Infinity, still number 1. CryptoPunks, still number 2. Bored Ape Yacht Club, still number 3. Those 3 NFTs have totaled $180 million in sales in the last 7 days. $180 million in sales. We keep seeing those names on our list rotating, and they're still there. They are the blue chip projects, but we got some new stuff, like you said. Doodles, which we talked about on the show last week. Farming Tales, no idea. Farmer's World, no clue. Art Blocks at number 7. What's going on with Art Blocks, Yossi?
Well, I think what we're seeing is that there is a lot of excitement about new drops, and the play-to-earn economy still being dominant with the Axie world. And generative art had its day a few weeks ago. It's maybe having a little bit less of that day, but the diehard collectors out there are saying, well, now is the time to be focusing on art blocks and to be scooping up some rare ones while everyone is putting their attention into the CryptoPunks, the Axies of the world, and all these new drops like a Farming Tales.
Absolutely. And Creature Toads, which I believe is a brand new NFT. I know they got hacked before they even launched, is in the top 10 as well. And they seem to be moving pretty well as well. But let's keep the conversation going on blue chips. There were a few big celebrities that recently bought those blue chips. Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort. For those of you who don't know who he is, Leonardo DiCaprio played the guy in Wolf of Wall Street. He bought a punk. Thoughts, comments, feedbacks?
Well, I think what we're seeing is this is the ultimate flex. It is getting maybe a little bit of a playbook that we're seeing happen. I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Belfort now comes out with his own NFT in 2 to 3 weeks' time. This seems to be the formula. A celebrity buys a punk, an ape, or whatever it is, and 2 to 3 weeks later announces that they're launching their own NFT. If that is the strategy, I think it's a little bit tired. And a little bit tried, and I hope that's not the path that Jordan's going. He's actually entering into the space as an avid collector, and we're going to see him like someone like Gary Vee, who is authentic. He's in it. He's in the Discord groups. He's supporting artists. He's got his own NFT in the market, but very much part of the community. We're seeing a lot of trying kind of cash grabs or land grabs. Let's see what the Wolf of Wall Street with Jordan Belfort does with a name like the Wolf of Wall Street. My expectations are low.
I think the guy is setting up a cold calling room as we speak right now, and he's dialing for dollars. He's doing something in the NFT space. And also we had some other celebrities. Kygo, an EDM artist, is in the space. He bought an ape. One Republic lead singer Ryan Tedder bought an ape as well. And Little Baby, everyone's favorite hip hop artist, bought an ape as well. So, and this is 3 completely genres of music, right? You have Little Baby, who's a hip hop guy, Ryan Tedder, who's a rock guy, and Kygo, who's an EDM guy, all joining the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And interesting enough, Little Baby only follows 4 people. The Bored Ape Yacht Club is one of those people that he's following, or one of those accounts. And that does give it some legitimacy. That's like, hey, this is not a cash grab, right? This is somebody that's believing in the Bored Ape community. And another piece of interesting information that I believe we missed or we didn't share about a week ago, Guy Fieri, who's Madonna's and U2's manager, is now representing the Bored Ape Yacht Club in Hollywood. We've seen this happen with CryptoPunks, that they signed with a Hollywood agency, and now we're seeing it with the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Playbook meaning we're going to see these guys in Hollywood very, very soon. Thoughts?
Well, I think what we're seeing here is that these are becoming iconic brands and major brands and being treated as such. There's collaborations with artists, with creators, and there's representation needed in order to be able to navigate that space and elevate the brands even further. Bored Ape has built in a very short space of time, crazy how short the time is, a real brand that people are excited about, wearing their merch selling out in seconds. They're throwing a yacht party at NFT NYC. I think that's why people like Kygo actually bought their ape. They just want to be on the yacht party. But I've really created a cool brand, and the moves that the Bored Ape Yacht Club are doing is to treat it that way, that this is an iconic brand that needs representation and that wants to start collaborating with the A-listers of the A-lists across Hollywood and the globe.
Absolutely. So what are your thoughts on where the market is right now? I mean, some people are saying, like, we have seen this week that some of the blue chips are starting to come back. Some of the mid tiers are slowly starting to creep. I mean, is this winter? Is this the new norm? Is this in connection to ETH being over $4,000? What's your pulse on the market, Yossi?
Well, I wouldn't call it a winter. If our If our vault is still sitting at $56,000 of a $3,000 investment, well,
50,
then maybe
54 and change.
sorry, 54 and change of a $3,000 investment, then, maybe people got a little too happy a little too quick, and things got a little crazy. So I wouldn't say it's a winter. What we're probably seeing is that with Ethereum now sitting at over $4,000, people are repricing some of their assets in US dollars, not only in ETH, and using that as a way to mechanism and design how much they should be selling for. And we're seeing some attention moving out of NFTs and into the broader crypto market. If the crypto market starts to slow and ETH drops down, we'll probably see attention going back into the NFT market. I'm not a trader, so I'm not into these short-term flips. What are we doing? Buying one and flipping every single day and trying to get into the next drop. I'm looking for NFTs like, let's use Bored Ape, where I think there is going to be a iconic status item that is built up over time and creates that kind of exclusivity. Those are the items that I'm investing in, so I'm not really bothered by these ups and downs. What's your view, Stanley?
Look, I agree. I mean, I know some people who bought, toads at 15 ETH and now they're at 5, right? So they're definitely worried. But the one, not financial advice conversation or tip or thing that I say to everybody is when you buy something, one, buy what you like and love, and two, be prepared for it to come crashing down and you need to withhold it in a long-term plan, right? This is something that you might need to hold on to 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And if you look at it from that perspective, yes, let's say something 10x's or 20x's. Is it a good idea to sell? Maybe, depending on your financial situation, depending on your investment, other investments you have, and do you want to diversify? Do you want to take that cash and roll into another project? But be prepared to hold on to it long term. That's my ideology. That's how I look at everything. And if you are a trader, then yeah, listen, sometimes you gotta, take those punches and go try to make it up on the next one. But I agree. I don't think it's winter. I think ETH is at $4,100 or whatever it is. I mean, if ETH went to $1,000, I think there would be much more of a panic, right? I think that people would really start questioning, is this thing for real? But, to kind of segue into the next piece of news, Facebook literally today made a huge announcement that I think completely changes the outlook of what the future of NFTs looks like. Yossi, share that announcement with us, please.
Well, Facebook decided that they need to rebrand the company and that they are going to focus on being a metaverse-focused company or a metaverse-first company. So the company has been rebranded to Meta, and Mark Zuckerberg delivered his keynote on Facebook, talking through all the AR, VR, and elements that are going to make up the metaverse that Facebook as a company are working on. He says that this isn't something that's going to be available next year or maybe even the year after. It's going to take time, but sees this as the next iteration of Facebook and wants to be one of the major players, if not the major player, in making the metaverse a reality. We're already seeing commentary on Twitter with people saying, okay, we need to find a new word for what we're building, giving immediate distaste as Facebook trying to own the metaverse. And part of the question is, will people trust Facebook as a brand, which is having some challenges at the moment, as the owner of the metaverse, as this company that is now excited, that people are excited to be part of?
Good question. But you know what? It is really, really, really smart what they did. I think a lot of people completely forgot that, our social media experience really started on Facebook, right? They're the ones that kind of created this social movement. Then they bought up Instagram and everyone's like, they're crazy. Why would they pay so much money for Instagram? Then they bought up WhatsApp. Everyone's like, what the hell is WhatsApp? Besides the younger generation that's using TikTok and Snap, I'm willing to bet that most people operate their day-to-day base between Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And we know that's true because when they had the outage a few weeks ago, the world collapsed. Like nobody knew what to do with themselves, right? So now they're saying, hey, we're going to go build something in the metaverse. We're going to go put all of our attention, money, resources, which they have a ton of. This is a big signal that this is legit, right? Like this is beyond legit. I mean, look, I think they're making a very big, bold play. Yes, they have a lot of issues when it comes to security and privacy and, you know, Congress and a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily make it look good. But at the same time, they were, you know, they were Tesla before Tesla. If you really want to really break it down. I like it. Maybe I'm a little old. I don't know. Maybe my gray hair started to show. I remember when it was cool to be on Facebook, and that you had to get an invite to get on Facebook, or your college had to be associated with it.
Well, that's my litmus test. You know, if I want to figure out where is the future going, I don't look at where people like me and you are spending our time. I look at where people 12, 13 to 18 years old, maybe even younger, are spending their time. Right now, it's not on Facebook. Maybe it'll be on Meta. So we'll see if they are able to carve out that space. Part of that announcement is that Facebook committed to investing $10 billion into building the metaverse. It's a big number. They aren't playing games. So we're seeing that the prize of being the dominant metaverse player is large. And NFTs within that is going to be the assets of the metaverse. So it's better that you educate yourself now on what these are to figure it out. And we'll be keeping you posted on everything metaverse related, NFT related as the news unfolds.
Absolutely. I see some congratulations are coming in for Yossi, and people missed you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we bring in our guests, one last thing we wanted to share, which I think is huge in the NFT community. NFT NYC, NYC NFT. What is it? Why should you be excited about it?
NFT NYC is New York's NFT event. It is a week-long event on all things NFTs. There was a running joke that there's more speakers than attendees, but I don't think that's true anymore. There's probably about 600 speakers that are speaking over the next week, but over 3,000 or 4,000 attendees will be hitting New York City. I looked at just the side events, and if you just went to the side events, you would be busy from now till the end of next year. There's so much going on. So a lot of activity happening. I think you can't get into the US from Europe right now. So it's going to be a very US centric event with majority of the speakers and attendees. But if you're in NFTs, everyone is going to be in New York City over the next week. Hopefully that means that there's some great trades for you out there. You could be buying and scooping up some NFTs because everyone else is at talks, drinking, talking and chatting and partying. So they're losing out on some epic trades. So if you're not here, that's where I would be looking. And using something like our next guest is about to tell us about DGen data and how you could use that data to give you some alpha when looking at which next NFT to acquire. So let's bring on Pat.
Hey, how's it going? Good. How about you?
Living the dream. Welcome to Goats in the Metaverse. Excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, stoked to be on.
So tell us, DGen data. Where do we start? How did you become the data guy?
Well, so my to get to where I was in the NFT data world, I was previously running analytics at an on-chain analytics company back in like 2017, 2018. And my background's a data scientist, loved smart, like as soon as I found out about Ethereum, it was like dive straight down this like insane rabbit hole of the world's largest massive database that's public and open. There's so much cool stuff that you can do. And then like the NFT market just got really interesting. And like, I just basically focused on applying kind of the smart contract blockchain analytics specifically in that vertical. So it was one of those things, you know, it's like you're excited about Ethereum. NFTs are just like the cherry on top that like keep this space even more exciting than it always is. So I was just kind of like taking the two things that got me really excited and just pushing them together and sharing them with people.
So data in NFTs is a hot topic. I think we're seeing a couple of platforms starting to pop up, but still a very, very nascent and new industry. People are thinking, what? You've got data on trading JPEGs? How does that actually work? So, how does it work? What are you looking for, and how can you have data on this type of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so the way that I look at it, I think, Stanley and Yossi, you kind of mentioned there's kind of two categories of people. There's like long-term collectors, and there's people who flip into projects. And I think that, given the fact that blockchain data is publicly available, like giving people tools that help them kind of make the right decisions in this space is one of the things that like we're focusing on doing. So we kind of thought about it, like I've been in the crypto space since 2016, and you've seen a lot of scams and you've seen a lot of rug pulls. Basically, we just want to make sure that like the data is there, please use it. We'll help it make it easier, try and condense it so you can do your own research. But basically the way that we were thinking about it, like when we started doing this, the first project that I got excited in and like got hands-on with the data was hash masks, back when kind of like all this stuff started kicking off, and the 10,000 plus like profile picture projects really started like accelerating. So I got into that project and I was like, well, unfortunately I just aped in, but like I didn't do any analysis. But to me, it's kind of like you've got to have skin in the game to make sense of it and keep your interest. So I started analyzing that market, understanding who was doing what. I started looking at the returns on some of these people's trades. I was like, this is insane. Like, this is really wild that people are making this amount of ETH trading NFTs. And so it kind of started there, and I started kind of building like an MVP around hash masks. And then I started realizing like, it's not just about the growth of the floor. Like there's so much around like a project that drives value. It's like the community grows. So it's like distinct wallet holders. It's like, are your wallet holders whales? Like how many of your holders have like ETH balances over 100 grand? Like all these different ways to personify the wallet identity on chain and really tell like a better story around who's doing what, who's related to this project, and kind of how it all fits together.
So if to break it down, if I'm using DGen data and I'm trying to analyze a project, some of the features I could see is I could go into a project, I could see who the owners are, how many owners are there, and actually how much ETH they have in their wallet.
Yeah, so if you go, I think you mentioned like if you go to Doodles, that was a newer one that we added. It was one that it's got an interesting growing community. I think a lot of them are around like, for us to add them, we want to have some decent trade volume, like enough transactions that we can actually like have some meaningful data behind. And then like a good community that like wants to build and trade and look at this stuff. So basically what this looks at is in the top left, you just have like a basic volume, total trades over time, as well as the median and average price of the NFT. And so this gives you like a good health of like the floor. Usually like this chart, what we're seeing is in the top left, you'll see a normal trend for when a project drops day 1, 2, 3, 4. Volume is just like spiking. The speculation is really high. Normally the floor, if it's just like, if it doesn't have a good community around it, the floor tends to just kind of follow the volume. But on the inverse, if you see like a project that does good community growth, you see like the floor and average and median price kind of pulling up along the way. So that's like a good macro view. And then if you start getting into like understanding the personas of who's buying stuff, you can look at like the top buyers and sellers. So for the time range that we're looking at, the top buyer looks like it's bought, 100, has bought 4 total doodles for a total amount of ETH. And you can see who those sellers are as well. So if you see, a big signal would be like for example, for punks, there's a few wallets that hold a lot. If you see those wallets just like offloading stuff, then you can start to get an idea of like, okay, there's like sell pressure coming into the market. How's it going to impact floor prices and vice versa? So that just gives you an idea of like how different wallets can move these markets. And then you get, if you're like a trader, so there's kind of like the 2 macro levels that you can look at. And then if you're like a trader, you own one of these, you want to try to like figure out what a fair price is. Normally, everybody kind of prices things by the floor, like that's your base value. But let's say you have some traits that are interesting, then you can, slice out by specific traits. Like so in Doodles, if you have a specific body type, specific face or hair, however the community values those traits, you can start to slice like what is a piercing versus something that that doesn't have one. And so basically, we kind of have it as we kind of view it as those three tiers. There's like good macro on price, good overview on who's doing what where, and then if you're an individual holder, like how is the value of certain traits being adjusted throughout the market. And then the other cool part is if you click on there's a little link to a tab called Holder Stats. If you click on that, this is like a great overview of the community. So we have the total Doodle holders buckets. So over 50% of the Doodle holders only hold one. So there's not like a heavy concentration of whales. Somebody holding 1,000 that could do whatever they want and dump things on the market, really rip the floor down. And then on the other side, you have like the ETH bucket balance. So a little over half of the wallets have under 1 ETH. And then the scatter plot on the left tells you like, here's the distribution of wallets that hold Doodles and their ETH balance. So you can see one outlier on the right has an extremely high ETH balance, but a low Doodle balance. And then vice versa, there's one wallet that's got a lot of Doodles and a lower ETH balance. And then the final chart is like distinct holders over time. So this is a great metric to get a good idea of like how the community of holders is growing. Or on the inverse, is it dropping? Is it something that people are selling? Is it somebody, as the number of wallets holding going down over time? And that could be like a signal that, either hardcore collectors are accumulating or the project is losing interest. So there's a lot of ways to kind of slice it. But I think that the interesting thing is like this stuff is all public data. And it just takes, pulling this stuff together and, building a narrative around what you think of a project and does some of these data points support it.
So that,
go ahead, Yossi.
So that's firstly awesome and amazing that you've pulled all of that data and made it publicly available for people to consume. And we'll go into the business model and how you're thinking about commercializing it if you are. But what on that holder stats that you just showed us for Doodles, like what would you be looking for? What does a healthy community look like that's giving you the indication that there's something interesting here, I should go into it? And what would like an unhealthy community look like? What are the flags that you're looking for?
Yeah, so like one of the things that's good to see is like the holder balance on the top left pie chart is like fairly distributed amongst most wallets. So it looks like close to 90% have less than 5 Doodles overall. So there's not a single concentration. And then where there are wallets that hold more than 5 or 35 Doodles, how many is it? And you can actually see on that scatter plot on the bottom, if you hover over those dots, like the one at the very top left, there's one wallet that holds like a lot of Doodles, but it's not like
57 Doodles and 16.92 ETH balance.
Yeah, exactly. So they're not like they could have an impact on the market. So to me, that's like especially for these high circulation NFTs, like 10,000s, if you hold a lot, you have more impact. So to me, this looks like there's no one person that can really like push things around. And then it comes down to the team on the Doodle side to say like, how can we engage with a larger community? So I think to me, those are some of the healthy signals. The ETH balance stuff is just, I think it's interesting to look at, like, do you have, whales in this project? And that's like a good proxy for whales. I know a lot of people have NFT whales, and that's not, your NFT balance is probably larger than your ETH balance in some cases, but I think just having a general benchmark of like, okay, here's how much buying power some of these wallets have in this community. Let's look at what they're going into. That's another thing I think is really helpful. If you see wallets that are making big bets on projects, what other bets are they placing? Let's look at what other projects they're collecting. Let's look at, what other, is it DeFi protocols or, other things that they're doing on chain, and just starting to understand like, where are they placing their bets? Because usually there's a good time if somebody's, like you're talking about with Facebook, a $10 billion bet on the Metaverse, it means it's definitely going to be something. So if somebody's putting a lot of money behind projects, I like to understand what else they're making bets on, and then obviously start my research there.
No, I actually think that's a great stat, and I know obviously there's other platforms out there, but I think the fact that you guys are looking at the ETH balance, and I think the other part of it is if everybody had, let's say, that on the doodle had below 1 ETH, you would kind of think that they're flipping this, right? Or there's a higher probability that they're going to try to flip this project because they need more ETH at one point or another, right? So they're probably bought in to flip this, which I guess from your perspective might be also good, right? Because if they're trading, it creates value. Or I mean, if they're trading, it creates volume. But is there any more thought behind that? Like, can we go deeper on the data to actually try to understand, like, when is the market gonna like go up or down or not?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at like the distinct wallet holders over time is a good metric for like the growth of people entering this space. So right now it looks like there's just under 5,000 holders for Doodles. But I think that like as volume starts to pick up, volume usually precedes floor price. And if volume starts to pick up, then you envision floor price to kind of follow suit. So if there's a bunch more buying and selling, there's usually an indication that people are more interested in this project. And that usually precedes the floor price getting ripped up. And I think if you look at things like that, like from projects that have a longer data track record, like Chromie Squiggles, for example, or like Mooncats or any of those projects that you have a little bit more on-chain data to support, you can kind of apply those ideas or those hypotheses to newer projects. And so that's kind of the way that I look at it from the data perspective. There is like to trading NFTs, there's also like a big component of like vibe, right? Like, is it cool? Do you like it? Like, are your friends into it? Are people talking about it? And those are the things, you know, again, buy the stuff you like. And if some of the stuff you like is the stuff that we're supporting and it's an investment, obviously, like do a little bit of research, but there's always like the cross of like, also, do I like this? So I think that those are the areas we want to give you the things that outside of the vibe check that you should have access to if you're looking into stuff.
And how do you decide what are the things that you're putting on DGen? Because, you know, it's almost a stamp of approval, and just by listing it on DGen data could have an impact on the performance of the NFTs. So what's that process like?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of a combo of like buying NFTs stuff. So we feel like there's got to be enough secondary market traction to really warrant adding data on chain. 2, you're doing something, you know, unique and new to the space that like warrants, like you're pushing the NFT space forward, or you're doing something in a novel way that's just not, you know, another 10,000 profile picture, but it's like you're thinking, what can NFTs be and how can I push them forward? And then the third is just kind of like, do we like the project? Are they, you know, does it have a good community around it? Do we see long-term roadmap? Have they executed on the things that they've done or said they'll do? And then, you know, kind of once it meets kind of those 3 checks, it's like, all right, we'll add it. We usually don't do anything where it's like people hit us up and they're like, can you put our project on? And so to me, if it needs to just kind of like have these checks first. And I'd rather not just like quote unquote give the stamp of approval for, you know, for some ETH, because I think like at the end of the day, like it's a reputational risk to say like we just want to support things that have already proven that they're capable of delivering on their roadmap, their dev team's cool, like their community's growing. You know, you guys got to do the work to deliver on what you said, and everybody that I think we're supporting is more or less doing that. There's some edge cases, like I think people get there's mixed reviews around mechas, but the pre-trade reveal volume was like insane. That it just like there's so much that we have to look at here.
How long does it take you to add a project? Is it something that, you know, is a lot of work and time and effort, or is it more from the other side of like you're just trying to curate the best of the best projects and you want to be selective on the ones you pick just because you want to make sure that they're legit projects?
Yeah. Oh, do I have the URL wrong on the mechas? I might have directed you to the wrong one.
Well, let's go to mechas and dive into that after you answer this question.
Oh yeah. So there's like a standard plate of queries that we develop, and the implementation of those to get it on DGen data, build everything. It takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then but there's like each project has like different data points that are kind of interesting to it. There's different utilities to how it can be done or what you can do with them that are also worth exploring. And so those are some of the things that we'll like, if it requires some custom analytics, we'll build it. But normally it's about like an hour to 2. The framework's all kind of like ready to go. It's just projects that we pick and projects that we like, and then we'll add them. And
did you just so I heard you correctly, you started buying NFTs first before you started building the data, correct?
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No. My first like non-NFT but crypto collectible was a pair of Unisocks, and that like started kind of getting me into the like collectible idea of stuff on chain like that, but it didn't really check like the 721 standard or the NFT token standard. And then unfortunately, I redeemed the physical pair of socks. I got them hanging on my wall here. That kind of stinks, but it's cool.
It's what, like $92,000 today? If you
yeah, if I still had the token, it'd be about 90,000. So
that's the socks, if you ask me.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just too afraid to open them and wear them. That's the real flex. So that was like my first one, but I didn't like the concepts didn't really click for me. And then I was talking to a friend of mine, guy, you guys probably know him, Andrew Steinwald. He's from Chicago as well. And we were both starting businesses around the same time. And he was starting stuff in the NFT space. And he was telling me, you gotta look at CryptoPunks or CryptoVoxels at the time. And I mean, I took his advice, but I picked CryptoVoxels. So I started looking into it. Like the idea of digital ownership on land in a metaverse made more sense to me than punks, and that like it just had utility to it at the time that made sense to me. And that's when that was early 2020 that I started kind of like exploring, playing around. And then the third NFT that I got into was hash masks, because it kind of like, again, had a utility to it where you hold it, you accrue tokens, the tokens can change the name, it's more interactive. And so that was the one that like, I was like, okay, so there's an element of DeFi to this. There's an element of the NFT to this. There's an element of utility. And I can like, and the idea that these traits and properties like have some different value, like the value movement is different based on how these traits like you own, like accrue some sort of value. So that's kind of where I started like really diving into the data. So I had like a really like brief intro into the NFT space. Still did a little bit of research, but like really went full heads down once I participated in the hash masks.
But now, so your theory or thesis around hash masks was kind of utility will prove to be more valuable over time, and hence why voxels and not punks. But with the advantage of hindsight, punks have overtaken, and floor price close to 100 ETH, and hash masks and voxels haven't had that same type of appreciation. Yeah. Why do you think that is, and what do you think that means for the kind of conversations that are happening now? Like, where's the utility in these NFTs, but the assets without utility seem to be doing the best?
Yeah, I think that's that was like the awakening for me when I got into this stuff, because I think I was looking at it from like, I'm coming from DeFi, so the utility must come with a token that I'm buying. NFTs were more like, every time I applied that thesis, I mean, it did all right, but the idea of like, there's a community value. And that's why I think there's a lot of metrics that aren't necessarily like about like the price movement, and more about like how many people are getting involved in a project, or like you were showing like who's buying these projects, like who are new ape owners, who are new punk holders, the community aspect. As soon as that like light bulb came on, I was like, I get it now. And that was like the same thing with the cryptos. I was like, oh, these are cool. People think these are funny. Like they're cool. I vibe with them. And then, it's kind of like all those, the community aspect of like, there's a fun component. Like, how fun is this project? Like, so I think that's a lot of the things. And then there's other narratives that drive value to things that don't necessarily have utility. Like, everybody's big on, historically relevant NFTs. So obviously punks, quote unquote, claim the title of being the OG NFT, but obviously like there's things that predate CryptoPunks, but I think a lot of people see the value in like of things that were ahead of their time. And so I think that's another interesting piece. But yeah, the profile picture stuff clicked after I kind of like spent more time in Discords chatting with people and stuff like that.
So do you think, I mean, long term, do you think that's going to change? And do you think that obviously the market is getting flooded? We have, you know, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of new NFTs coming in on a daily basis. Nobody can really keep up. Do you think that eventually, you know, the ones with the utility and the ones that are going to be, you know, a lot more innovative than others, obviously community is important, obviously story is important, but you think the ones long term with utility are going to win?
Yeah, I think like, I mean, to think about it like this whole year being like crypto NFT year is, I mean, it's been a really, it feels like the space is so advanced so far, but it's really been like a year. And so to judge yeah, it's true. And I think if you look at it from like a long-term perspective, and that's kind of how I think about it, having like, I've been in crypto and I've ridden ETH from sub $10 to $2,000 to $80. Like if you can stomach and you're in it and you have conviction in this stuff, I think there is plenty of room for these things to be long-term, like household name items, you know? And I think that like NFTs are just scratching the surface on what they can do. And I think Bored Apes is really like the one that's showing like a ton of crazy cool utility. Like I don't own one, and I had the opportunity to get in, and I just was like, I don't know. But they're executing, they're doing really cool stuff, and they've got a yacht in New York, and they're like providing cool stuff to their holders. And I think the brand is forming, and I think like these communities are going to be massive brands in the future. And like if you couple that with, you know, Coinbase launching an NFT marketplace, Facebook creating a metaverse, like these things are just going to become more and more and more prevalent if you can stomach, you know,
the volatility.
Yeah. If you can stomach like the price of your NFT, like, you know, going down to nothing, you know, I think you have to be ready to ride that wave and have some conviction if you're in it for the long haul.
So I'm gonna ask you the one question I get asked maybe 10 times a day: is it too late? No. Is it too late? No, is it too late? Should I buy ETH? Should I buy my first NFT, or is it too late?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's going away. I mean, I don't think it's too late. I think there's so much cool stuff outside of the NFTs going on Ethereum in general that like the NFT market is exploding. What NFTs can do is just being figured out. Like there's so much potential locked up in what these things can do, what they can access, integrating Web3 into like traditional Web2, like more sites are just going to start having, like Twitter's going to start supporting profile pictures. They're like Web3 integrations. And, you know, 80%, if that's being generous, is on Ethereum. And I think that like, if you look at the building around, like being a builder in this space makes me very excited, because like you see the other things, like the writings on the wall when you hear people doing stuff like that. And you're like, well, this means, it doesn't mean that like Twitter's implementing NFTs, it means they're integrating with Ethereum and me. And then I'm like, all right, ETH to 10,000 is like a very realistic number to me.
I agree.
So, and friends that I've had that bought Bitcoin back in 30K, and they're like, oh no, it's at 8 now. And I'm like, okay, just hang on.
Just hold.
You know? Yeah, and you know, they'll be all right. I mean, they're all good now, so everybody's kind of
except the one guy who probably sold it, right?
Yeah, except for like the one person. But yeah, I do think like it's not too late, and I think like if you want to get into this space, you have to have some skin in the game. It makes it a lot more interesting, and you learn from like your bad trades. You gotta lose money and learn some lessons.
And lessons we have all learned, some of them very painful, but
yeah.
You know, we're in it for the vibes and having fun and learning as we go. Let's go back to DGen data. All the data is available and accessible, and you've put it all together brilliantly for us to be able to consume and understand without having to be a blockchain wizard. Why have you done this?
Well, one is just I mean, I was pretty excited about like the space in general, and I think putting things out there for people to use is crypto has been like I mean, this stuff's so fun. Like it's the most exciting space, and I feel like giving something back to a space that's like given a lot, you know, to the people involved is nice to do. So I think for that reason, you know, this is why we just opened it, didn't internalize it. I mean, I think we could have, you know, people were like, shut it down, just trade on this stuff, or, you know, run some proprietary stuff. At the end of the day, like, I'd rather have a product out there that grows the adoption of this space rather than like internalizing it and kind of keeping it to myself. Because I think like I'm long crypto for 20, 50 years. So like what's going to get more people like me 5 years ago to get as excited as I am right now? And like giving people tools, stuff they can touch, look, feel, understand, become comfortable in making investment decisions like in this space. I think it's just like a way to help push crypto more mainstream from the way that I can provide it. You know, I'm not like a celebrity buying a punk saying like, here's 1 million followers, but I think from the people in this space that want to learn it, get familiar, that's kind of what we're thinking.
That's awesome. And I think literally every single week we talk to different people in the space, and it's the same exact conversation, right? Like I want to get more and more people into the space. I want to build a community. I want to give back, and you could tell it's genuine. And it's authentic.
Yeah.
It's not somebody that's, you know, we're not waiting for the other shoe to drop. But I think to that point of, you know, when you answered the question, we're early, right? We are early. I saw a stat. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but it sounds accurate. Less than 0.009 internet users own an NFT. And if you think about that, that number is insane, right? Like what happens when we get to 0.001% of internet users, right? Does that mean that like we're all on yachts, and the data that we have available is on a different level?
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I think is really interesting. Like if you look at it, if you even boil it down to a smaller sample size, if you looked at like the number of wallets on Ethereum, and I forget what that number is. I know it's an Etherscan stat, but they have like the wallet creation rate, and let's say it's like a couple mil, like 16, 17 million. I can't remember the exact number. But like less than 1 million wallets own an NFT. Like they have a zero balance of, and and that's being generous. I know it's like under 500,000. So like even in the crypto space, there's just so many wallets that don't hold an NFT. So there's still a long way for the crypto world to even start like getting into this further and further. And I think where the diehards and the, you know, early enthusiasts are, like there's a big community of excitement around it, but I still think that there's like a long way to go.
Let's put you on the spot. What are your 3 favorite NFTs?
Ooh, that's a good one. 3 favorite NFTs.
And why?
Yeah, I think I think our punk is one, just because I think we, you know, it's a punk. I think that's just
that's it. You don't have to explain anymore.
Yeah. One of the other favorites I think is one. I mean, we have a squiggle. I like the squiggles. We like the squiggles. And then I think the third one would probably be, there's a guy, I mean, this isn't like a profile picture famous project, but there's a guy called Taken's Theorem, and he does like these beautiful on-chain data visualizations. And it's not, you know, it's not algo generated. It's like, you know, he builds them. But he's got a couple NFT projects that are visualizations of his data. That's all beautiful, like on-chain analytics, like network graphs that are just really cool. And I think his stuff is probably one of my third favorite, just because like it's so data oriented, and he makes it look cool.
Speaks to you.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of my third one. And it's funny because like he's just like he's a anonymous person, but like everything he's done is like super cool. Gives all his projects he donates back to charity. He's just like, I don't know, overall like seems like a great person, does cool stuff. So That's
the name again?
Taken's theorem. I'll drop
We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, that'll be great.
And what's next for DGen Data? What can our audience expect? I mean, what are some of your longer term goals?
Yeah, so I think there's obviously we'll continue to support growing communities and different trade analytics. I think supporting more of the play to earn stuff would be pretty interesting. It's like the dynamics around that space are just different than collecting. It's not so much just like buy and hold and look at a few of the metrics that are driving community adoption or driving value accrual, but like how do you generate income in play to earn? How are the dynamics of the game working, as well as the NFT dynamics? So I think that'll be a really interesting like data component. So there's kind of that piece, and then we think like long term, like DeFi and NFTs are definitely going to merge, and you're starting to see that with protocols that are allowing people to take out loans against their NFTs, throw them in a pool and get some sort of liquidity instantly. And we think that to properly like push the value of these NFT and DeFis, you need some sort of pricing oracle to get a fair market value of, let's say you have a mid-tier NFT based on rarity, historical price sales, community growth. We think that there needs to be some sort of solution that helps bridge the gap between DeFi and NFT valuations. So I think things along those lines are going to start becoming more and more necessary as that intersection starts to mature, and kind of being a natural data provider that kind of crosses those two spots will be a pretty interesting way to get involved in a broader growing segment of the NFT world.
So if our audience wants to help in your mission of making this more accessible, which we're very thankful for, how can they get involved? What do you need? And how can they reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. So our Twitter is DGen Data. So you can always DM us on Twitter. That's probably the easiest way. And then obviously like ideas for projects, we're always open to looking into projects that are worth supporting, communities that are growing. If you have ideas, a lot of people hit us up for ideas for features that they want to see, and those are always like really good. Like those are usually the ways that we end up getting a lot of the inspiration for the data that we want. If somebody's like, hey, this would be really cool. So if you have ideas, definitely let us know, because we're definitely open to implementing them. You can follow us on Instagram as well, dgendata.io. And again, DMs are always open. That's the easiest way to reach us, and we're down to chat, and we love this stuff. So feel free to hit us up on anything.
I'm going to give a pro tip to our viewers. Instagram is a great way to connect with your favorite NFT influencers. That's how we connected. And I think it's funny because like everybody who's huge on Twitter has a very small audience on Instagram, and it's a lot easier to reach out and start a conversation. Or maybe I'm showing my age and I prefer IG over Twitter.
No, I'm with you. No, and Instagram's nice because I think you get, especially from the NFT world, it's just a lot easier to see like what people are doing. It's more visually appealing than reading, blocks of text all day.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, it's a completely, obviously a different platform, different type of conversation. But I just think it's funny that I've reached out to a few people on Twitter, gotten no response, and I've reached out to people on IG and have gotten a significant response. So if you're looking to connect with somebody in the NFT community, maybe that might be a tip. Hit them up on IG. All right. Well, listen, Pat, I mean, kudos to you. We love the platform. We use it. We're definitely going to continue to use it. We're going to share it with everybody. And I mean, my takeaways are that like it's all there for you, right? You have to spend the time. You have to put in, you got to do the work. But all the information, all the data is there. Yeah, and I think that's where I think that's probably one of the best parts about the space. Whatever you want to know, you could find that information out. It's all about on chain.
People are so friendly and helpful. Like they want you to get into this stuff. People are willing to answer your questions and onboard you. I mean, the amount of people that I'm like, here's how you set up MetaMask. Here's how you get ETH. Here's how you buy an NFT. Like, I want them to get bitten by the NFT bug or the crypto bug and go as deep as we've all gone.
Yeah. Oh, listen, kudos to you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. And I love that you dove all in, right? Data scientist, you went from, hey, I'm buying crypto to I'm going all in. And we'll continue to keep an eye out on DGen data and hopefully, have you back from time to time to digest projects together. Yossi, any last words for our man, Pat?
Yeah, what I love about DGen Data and Pat, what you're doing is this is just the ethos of decentralized open systems. No one came, Ethereum started. No one said there's going to be an analytics platform for NFTs that's open, accessible, that's tracking wallets and telling you where you should potentially be investing in the community and in these platforms. And here we have a developer who's dedicating his life to giving us that information at no cost to us. Like, where else in the world can you get that? It's incredible. So, Pat, really, really thankful for the work that you do and for making this community that much more accessible and understandable. So it's great to have you on the show, and we look forward to using DGen data in many more of our analysis and the communities that we're backing, and hopefully some profitable trades.
Absolutely.
Pat, next time we see you, you got to wear those socks, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I got to do it. Well, as a closing, let me know if there's a project you guys want me to support. I mean, I'm happy to throw something up. If you guys have, I saw the vault. I want to keep that vault growing. So if you can put some data behind any of the projects you guys are in, let me know. We'd be happy to get you up.
Love it. We appreciate you, Pat. We'll have you back soon. Pat from DGen Data, guys, check him out, and we'll talk to Pat soon. Peace, Pat.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. See you guys.
Wow. And this is what I love about the space, and I think most people don't understand. I didn't understand it. Now, a minute, I understand it. Like, this guy's dedicating his life to providing value for others, right? Like, and I do it on a day-to-day basis. You do it on a day-to-day basis. Everybody that's in the space is teaching others how to get into the space. And there's no it's not a pyramid scheme, right? There's no commission. There's no like I'm making a residual value by somebody else buying an NFT or anything like that. And that's what I really, really love about the space, the community aspect of it. And we see it on a day-to-day basis from everybody we speak to.
Yeah, we've got the smartest people in the world, and you can see that with the way Pat looks at things, spending their time and life trying to create value for this, for this almost a religion of bringing decentralized technology, NFTs to the world and making everyone an owner and bridging the gap from creators to owners. So, kudos to Pat. Love the platform. And can't wait to see who we have on next week and what happens
next week. Check us out, and don't forget to subscribe. Why do we subscribe, Yossi? Listen, you were out for a few weeks. You got to tell us again about the Goat Vault, Yossi.
Well, we subscribe because that's the only way we can tell you about all the awesome things that are happening in the NFT world and in the metaverse. Give you some alpha, bring people on like Pat, and teach you all you need to know about the latest drops, how to think about NFTs, and be in this community. As our sweetener, we have the Goat Vault, the little sugar on top, the Goat Vault, where we're taking 10,000 of our own dollars, investing them in new NFTs, new drops, putting them in the vault, securing them there, safeguarding them, not for us, but for you. That when we get to 5,000 subscribers, we will be opening up the vault, and you will be able to win its contents. By then, what could that price of that vault be and the value of that vault? I think it's going to be in the 7 figures range.
I hope we get to 5,000 subscribers before we hit 7 figures. But
I hope that 7 figures comes, in the next 3 weeks. But let's see what happens. So don't forget to subscribe to the show, and we will, as always, see you next week on Goats in the Metaverse.
Yes, sir. And Yossi, welcome back, my friend. It's good to have you back. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I'm excited, and we'll see everybody next week. Peace.